Welcome everyone to episode 102 of the Lofi Poli Sci podcast. I'm your host Michael Pickering, and that's right, Lo-Fi as in low fidelity, low quality, in your face, messy as can be global news show. Here we're going to talk about that famous question, what's going on in the world today? It's Thursday and time for that Lo-Fi Global News, fresh off the press. Source, BBC News, World Section. Belarus election, women form solidarity chains to condemn crackdown. As protests continued against the presidential election results of Sunday, women in the country are banding together, hand in hand, wearing white and carrying flowers, calling for an end to police brutality against protesters, and asking for the release of almost 7,000 people already arrested for protesting the elections. This is solidarity. This is people's power movements. This is hope. We're with you, Belarus. Our following story comes from Reuters World News. Myanmar bars major election monitoring group from observing polls. In 2016, the military junta transferred power to a democratically elected body, though skepticism remained on how much power that body actually had. Freedom House in 2019 rated Myanmar as not free, and the idea that national elections coming up in November will not be monitored by the People's Alliance for Credible Elections only adds to the fear that democracy is not a reality in the country. The Election Commission stated it did not renew the group's accreditation because there was evidence of foreign influence. We'll definitely be watching how this story develops. Now, moving forward, because we never move on from anything. Source, AP News International. Lebanon's military gets sweeping powers after Beirut blast. This week, the government of Lebanon resigned, but before that resignation went into effect, they granted the military the following powers. Quote, the power to declare curfews, prevent public gatherings and censor the media, as well as refer civilians to military tribunals for alleged security breaches. End quote. This is big, Lo-Fi Nation. There's also a lot of vagueness around who's really in control of the government in Lebanon. One of the main consensuses that I've been seeing across media sources is that no one is sure. Stay strong, Lebanon. We're with you. Next up, source, BBC News, Latin America. Mexico ex-president Enrique Peña Nieto accused of corruption and bribery. This is another big one. A former head of the state of energy in Mexico, who is also accused and going on trial for corruption, has stated that the former president took millions in bribes. The former president had already been ousted as accepting bribes from former cartel leader El Chapo to the tune of $100 million. To be clear, though, this story is about the launching of an investigation. It is not about the government actually accusing or putting the former president on trial. We're still a far ways from that situation. And a last piece of news to send you on your way for the day. Source, Reuters Science Section. Dwarf planet Ceres is ocean world with salty water deep underground. How refreshing. A story about a dwarf planet that isn't Pluto. Because we all know Pluto is a planet. The story. The dwarf planet Ceres lies in the asteroid belt beyond Mars and before Jupiter. A NASA spacecraft came within 22 miles of it and observed the planet's, listen to this, cryovolcanism taking place. And what is cryovolcanism, you may ask? It's active volcanoes slowly releasing icy matter. And in this case, it's brine, or salty water beneath the surface that has been slowly freezing and coming up. This is wicked important, Lo-Fi listeners, because this means that once we get to Mars, even if there's no water there, as we extend further, we'll be able to, theoretically, stop on Ceres to replenish our water supplies as we go out into the cosmos. Wicked cool. And that's a brief snapshot of what's going on in the world today. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode of Good News Friday. Always remember that Lofi Poli Sci is more than just me. It's the we that we be. Write in with questions or comments to lofipolisci@planetmail.com. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, wash those hands, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Lofi Poli Sci podcast. Pickering, signing off.